I come on this show every day as America's honesty broker, and I just try to give you the skinny, and I understand that you're fans, and you and I are going to disagree on stuff because you're very passionate about your teams. You don't call me looking for me to care about your team as much as I do, because I don't. But yesterday I suggested, and apparently this was met with outrage by San Francisco media and fans, I suggested, I think San Francisco needs the reboot. Oh, I don't know. There's this crazy thing about being 5-7 in your last 12 games, old, expensive, and brittle. That apparently was outrageous. So San Francisco fans have not yet accepted a very harsh truth. How many great players do you have in their prime? Philadelphia got a lot of great players in their prime. Detroit's got a lot of great players in their prime. Last year was the last dance. And there's a reason there's only been one documentary on a sports team's last dance. It rarely turns out like you think. So, and if you don't think the bigger they are, the harder they fall in the NFL, let me give you the Patriots, who went from a 20-year dynasty to Jenga in 2 years. Crap all over the floor. Or the Dallas Cowboys, 12 wins to, what the hell am I watching? San Francisco, you should know better. 1999. After Montana and Steve Young. Steve Young gets hurt in 1999. Next 12 years, made the playoffs 2 times. This is a sport where people are tackling each other. Big, strong men are tackling each other. Stuff falls apart fast. Seahawks dynasty, here it never was. This is going to be 2 years. So psychologically, the Niners have never, ever been able to hoist a trophy. And so how the Niners view themselves and how the rest of us view the Niners are two different things. Here's how the rest of us view the Niners. The Kansas City Chiefs toy with you. Under Kyle Shanahan, they're 5-0 against you, 4 blowouts. You're not close to San Francisco. You're not close to Kansas City. 0-5, 4 double-digit losses. They're getting better. You're getting old and worse and expensive. They keep rebuilding the O-line, rebuilding the receiving corps. Andy Reid, Mahomes in his prime. You got Brock Purdy and an old, expensive, brittle roster. It's not close. Now, Baltimore and Buffalo have superstar quarterbacks, so they still have a shot. And many of their best players in Baltimore and Buffalo are in their prime. But Brock Purdy in an aging roster, does that sound like you're on the precipice of a 9-year run? And I look at that schedule this morning. You can blame whoever you want. You can go kicking and screaming. I'm looking at that remaining schedule. At Buffalo this week. Rams, at Miami, Detroit, at Arizona. Chicago's no layup. Not the way Caleb Williams is playing. So how you view yourself is not how everybody else views the Niners. I view you as 0-5 against Kansas City. You've had 3 coordinators in 3 years. They have the best coordinator and the best head coach, and the best quarterback, and you have Brock Purdy, a coach that's good but blows late leads in big games, and you're on your 3rd coordinator, and none of those in 4 or 5 games can come close to Kansas City. Every time they play you, same result. Kind of ugly. That's how the rest of us view it. Big brand, lot of wins, but this league, you crash hard. You crash hard. It's not like NBA. Michael's great. He leaves for a couple years. Michael comes back. They have another dynasty. No, it's not like that. It's like the Seattle Seahawks. Get to a Super Bowl, then another, then see ya. It's the New England Patriots, 20 years of dominance to a Jenga piece on the floor around 20 other Jenga pieces. Defensive coordinator gets hired as an offensive coordinator. What are they doing? It's Dallas. They are this close to apparently 4th place. That's the league. Kyle Shanahan on the current state of the Niners.
You're 1 game out of first in your own division. So that does say a lot, especially being able to play 2 of those teams left over 6 games. But you also know you look at the whole NFC picture, and if you don't win the division, it's 10-7 is not guaranteed to get in as a wild card by any means this year. So I think everyone understands completely outside and inside what the situation is.
By the way, Brock Purdy, light throwing yesterday. A bit of a mysterious shoulder issue. Nobody's quite sure what it is. but they're a touchdown underdog. It's going to be cold out in Buffalo. They're flying cross country. This is the best Bills team in the Josh Allen era. You're staring at 5-7, and that would be 5-8 in your last 13 games. And I'm the crazy one. I'm the one that doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, fine. I'll just take it again. Show up every day. Dartboard. I'm a verbal dartboard from fans. Hey, Lamar Jackson's pretty good at quarterback. Now, again, not a terrible night for the Chargers. It's year one of the process. They need themselves 2 or 3 Zay Flowers. But this is about Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. Now 10-1 he is. Last 3 years after a loss, 16 touchdowns, 4 picks in those games. He is relentless. He can beat you over the top. He can beat you with his legs. He can beat you underneath. You can't get a hold of him. But yet at 27 years old, by the way, MJ didn't win a title until he was 27 years old. But Lamar Jackson, whatever it is, everybody wants to make definitive statements about Lamar Jackson at 27. New rule. When anybody in any career, it can be comedy, screenwriting, tightrope walking, athletics. If anybody's great at 27, I'd scale back on the definitive statements. They're going to eventually break through. Yeah, Michael Jordan's first title, 27. You want to know how many Super Bowls Drew Brees and Peyton Manning had at 27 combined? 0. Bagel. Nada. Nothing. Be careful. You can make definitive statements on a bust. Quentin Johnson can't catch. There's my definitive statement for the Chargers' first-round receiver pick last year. He can't catch consistently. But everybody's trying to define a great 27-year-old pro athlete. So that's the first thing. His work ethic, he's the soul of the team. You're wasting your breath. You can define people at 27 if they don't have a work ethic, they're not that talented, they don't have any career momentum. He's not the guy you want to do that to. The second part of this story is the Chargers will probably look more like Baltimore in a couple of years. They're step one of the process. But what has Baltimore done? Baltimore's done what Buffalo's done. They keep adding elements to help their superstar quarterback so he didn't have to be Superman. So a couple years ago, you're like, they could really use some help at receiver. Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is great. You can get him on a drag route. 8-yard completion, 38-yard gain. You can get Zay Flowers over the top. And then they add Derrick Henry, who, it's hard to bring down. It's like James Cook and Dalton Kincaid for Josh Allen. You want to have a superstar quarterback. You don't want him to have to do it by himself in every big game. And by the way, when the Ravens went for it on 4th and 1 at their own 16, that is a tip of the cap to Lamar Jackson. You don't do that with 90% of the quarterbacks in this league. But if you got a Mahomes, you got a Josh Allen, you got a Joe Burrow, you got Lamar Jackson, maybe you got a Jalen Hurts, whoever. You're always like, if this doesn't work, it's not like we can't score on the other end. That's the confidence you have when you have one of these 5 or 6 amazing quarterbacks. Let's just go for it. That becomes the default answer a lot of the time. That's why getting the quarterback is the most important thing in this league. You can always be aggressive. You can always overcome. You can take bigger risks. You can't take risks with an average quarterback. There's some quarterbacks in this league, if they're down 10-0, game's over. San Francisco falls behind 7-0 this weekend or 10-0, and you're like, with a backup quarterback, game's over. I don't even like Brock Purdy down 14-0. Lamar Jackson, what do I care? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, what do I care? Right? So, the Chargers, they're going to be fine. But they were the little brother last night. And the big brother, step 3 or 4 or 5 in the process, and they're looking for the payout now next few years. Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. I felt like I was watching the younger version of the Ravens, where you've got a Harbaugh coaching, a star quarterback, and he just doesn't have, Justin Herbert just doesn't have enough help yet. He will. Harbaugh's a good drafter. They need a couple Zay Flowers. They could use maybe a Derrick Henry too. But here's Lamar after.
I feel like, for me being a big brother, it's like I can't lose to my little brother, and that's what I believe going into that game. He was thinking a lot, and then Jim on the other side, I believe he was like, I got to beat my big brother. But we came out victorious.
And by the way, here's another thing. I know you don't want to give Lamar credit because he didn't throw for 400 yards. But remember, that the Ravens have now dropped 30 points on the Bills, Denver, and the Chargers. Pretty good defenses. Well, Derrick Henry, when he was down in Tennessee, Titans weren't dropping 30 points on defenses like that. It starts with Lamar Jackson. Primetime, Monday Night Football after a loss. I'll put his numbers up for the TV audience. He's money. And just so we're clear here, for all you Lamar haters, just so we're clear, I want to get this clear. So when the Ravens and Lamar lose to the 7-2 Steelers in the 1 o'clock window, that's a huge game. But when they beat Harbaugh and Herbert in primetime on Monday Night Football on the road, that one doesn't count. Is that where we're at now? I'm just struggling with the 1 o'clock window. I always thought prime time, Sunday night, Monday night. I always thought those were big games. Beating a Harbaugh, beating a star quarterback always felt like a big game to me. Just trying to keep track.